It's Monday night, Drew. You know what that means? It means I'm freaking tired, man.
Yes.
I'm tired, but I'm here, and we are here once again for the people. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Monday night cooked edition of the Devil's Due. We're not Monday Night Raw. We're better than that. We're Monday Night Cooked.
We're definitely better than that.
Yes, of the Devil's Due. I am your host, Call of Duty. With me, as always, is a man who once beat Alfred Pennyworth in the tea-making competition. Mr. Drew Celestino.
He's a native, and if I could do that, that's impressive on my end.
Yes.
That man knows his way around some tea.
Exactly. How are you, sir?
Good.
Good.
I'm good. It's, another period of time has gone by, and the world is pretty much the same. So, yay, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the world is as it, to quote Superman from Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, the world is as it always is, on the brink, with good fighting evil.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that movie has its moments. Very few of them, but here and there. Christopher remembers that he's Superman. So yeah, we're here. It's Monday night. Normally we are given to record on a Friday night, but a combination of a couple different things just kind of got in the way Friday. And they were like, hey, let's just do it Sunday. All right, great. And then we both realized, oh yeah, Monday's Valentine's Day.
Oops.
And we're both married.
We have obligations.
We have obligations to fulfill. Happy as we are to fulfill them.
Yes.
But obligations needed to be fulfilled. So here we are on Monday night. Sir, how have your weeks been?
It's been good. Hey, on the plus side of the Monday night recording schedule, I am now caught up to WandaVision. So, we can...
Oh, look at that!
When we discuss, I will be able to discuss everything, that's going on. So, yay.
All right.
So, having said that, I am well. Weeks have been okay. I'm trying to think of what I'm up to that would be of interest to our dear listeners. Okay, couple things. I'm going to start with a simple one that I just started the other night. Last night. I got the itch, Carl, and the itch was to play Castlevania Symphony of the Night, as one is wont to do. Now, what I normally do to scratch that itch is I play it on my emulator on my PC, which is downstairs. Unfortunately, I don't want to live in my basement any more than I have to because I work down here in the studio cave 8 hours every day. So I don't want to do it in my off time as well. So I took the plunge and I spent $20 and I got the Symphony of the Night Rondo of Blood collection for PS4. Okay. Here are some thoughts. It turns out that it is not, and I think I knew this going in, so I, was prepared for whatever I was getting. It is not a port of the PlayStation 1 original Symphony of the Night. It is a port of the PSP version that came out sometime later. Now the difference, the one major difference is the voice acting, which is derided by many, and it's definitely cheesy and poor, and it's a product of 1997 in every way. See also Resident Evil. They replaced all that voice acting with new voice acting, which is much more serious, better translated, more, less hokey and probably more accurate to the real Japanese script. That's all fine. But I'm not going to lie. I missed the cheesy dialogue. I missed the overly dramatic, sounded like they were recorded in a bathroom audio quality of the original voice acting. And I definitely miss the original voices specifically. Alucard in particular, who is, the main protagonist that you play as, they changed his voice. And despite everyone else in the game being like super over the top and corny, Alucard always had a very stoic, monotone, yet resonant voice that was good and fit his character really well in the original. And they have replaced that. And it's similar, but it's not the same. So that's kind of a bummer. But I can, deal with that because it's not a dialogue-heavy game as it is. I mean, there is dialogue, but you're mainly, killing monsters in a big castle for hours upon hours.
Yeah.
But the thing that is kind of funny and, like, puzzling to me is the performance of the game seems to be wildly not... A game made in 1997 for the PS1 shouldn't have frame rate slowdown issues on a PS4, right?
In theory.
So that just tells me that this is yet another example of Capcom. I'm sorry, forgive me, not Capcom. Capcom would never do harm by us. Not in the way that the company I'm going to name would do harm by us, that being Konami. Man, Konami just doesn't care. And it shows in every way. We get some options in the Castlevania game, and there's some border because obviously the games are in 4x3. So you get some decent border choices you can use. You can do it in a full frame or a full screen with borders on the sides. So it never breaks. You can never do full screen. Like it never stretches to the full widescreen. So you're always going to have a 4x3 ratio, but you can either do it framed in the middle of the screen with a border surrounding the entire screen, or it'll do full height with side borders. Fine, totally fine. And they even give you a scan lines option, which for me, I'm a sucker for scan lines, so I'll take it every time. I think they look pretty good, but I don't know that they're perfectly scalable to any resolution because there's no option to scale them. So whatever they are, that's what you got. I'm spoiled with my analog SN. What's it? What's it? Why am I blank? The Super NT. Jeez.
Yeah.
The analog Super NT's visual options are so robust that I can even control the scale and the depth and the visibility of the scan lines. And I just, it's not that hard of functionality to really do. So when these guys don't include it, it's kind of like, come on, man. But in any case, yeah, so that's fun. I'm going to start playing some Castlevania. I love that game to death. I know that they made more of them after that, and they were enjoyable, like on the 3DS and on the DS, even the Game Boy Advance, but my heart will always rest with Symphony of the Night. It's such a magically beautiful game. The sprite art is gorgeous. Just wonderful game. That's one thing that happened. The other thing, Carl, I don't know that I brought this up on the show last time we spoke, but I'm going to bring it up now. Carl, do you have a minute to talk about our Lord and Savior, The Expanse? Because I started watching The Expanse in the last couple weeks, and boy howdy, I am now in the back half of season 3, and The Expanse is the best sci-fi show that I can't believe I haven't watched before now. This is the show. Oh boy, this is the show.
So this kind of links into an interesting phenomenon that I have been thinking about the past couple days, but I'll get into that after you've completed. Please tell us of The Expanse.
In Reddit parlance, I've watched almost 3 seasons of The Expanse. Ask me anything. I know season 5 just ended, and I think that's what kind of got me to like start watching it, because I know there was some fanfare over season 5, so it kind of popped up on my radar of like things that were happening right now. And
Yes.
I had heard of the show over the last few years, and I heard near universal praise about it, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't find my way to it. But
Right.
somehow, time was available now. I'm not actively engaged in too much in the television, nothing at all really in the television world. So it was like, you know what? I got to fill my nights up with something. So I got to start watching something. So roll the dice, put the Expanse on. And boy, am I glad I did. So, the Expanse. To anyone that is listening to this, I might be butchering some of this, or I might be basing my information on the first 3 seasons, and we are now in 5. So, if you know more than me, please do not spoil me in email or text or whatever. Bear with me. The Expanse is about humanity in about 200 years or so, humanity moving outward into the galaxy. Now, to be clear, there is no faster than light travel in this show, and the science of this show is actually pretty hard. In other words, there's no hand wavy inertial dampeners, there's no hand wavy or gravity on ships kind of thing. No, if you're in space, there's no gravity. The only way to get around that is mag boots. That's like the only magical air quotes thing that they have. They wear mag boots so they can walk on their ships when they're in 0G. Other than that, the only gravity you get when you're out in space is on gigantic space stations and ships that are called drum ships, where they have the centrifuge kind of deal where it spins, and that creates gravity in space. Other than that, 0G is a real thing. Mars was colonized some years ago, and Mars and Earth are not friendly towards one another. Likewise, a whole civilization has developed in the asteroid belt beyond Mars, where humans have colonies, stations, and they're made up of laborers mainly. They're called belters, and they do a lot of the resource harvesting of water, gases, etc., that get basically sent back to Mars and Earth, and the belters are kind of seen as like a lower class of people. And as a result of living out beyond the asteroid belt and space stations and whatnot, physically they are very different from Earthers and Martians even, at least in the early season of season 1. This kind of gets dropped a little bit as it goes on for valid reasons, as I found out. Ultimately, in the early episodes, you're going to see like tall, skinny people make up the belt population, because out there'd be less gravity, and these are generations of people who have grown up with less gravity. So they're taller, skinnier, and it's a little off-putting. But as we move on, they kind of unfortunately get away from that, and everyone just kind of starts to look more normal human. As it turns out, tall, lanky actors are hard to find, especially when you need to have enough of them as extras and whatnot to populate entire scenes and entire episodes. So right. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't miss it. It's just a little interesting wrinkle that gets introduced early and then kind of pushed aside. But anyway, so what you've got in the setup of this show is a 3-way Cold War, essentially. It's intense. You get perspectives on each side of this. So you get the Earth perspective, you get the Belter perspective, and then eventually you get the Martian perspective on how they view each other. And all of them have their valid reasons why they distrust the other and why the things are kind of as tense as they are. All of this is I don't want to say comes to a head. It will come to a head, but that's not the main thrust of the show. Everything I just kind of laid out is almost like the backdrop of the show. The plot kind of gets going into like a murder mystery, or a missing persons mystery rather, even, and a detective on a space station played by Thomas Jane, which I did not know he was in this, and I was happy to see him. He gets tasked to find this girl, and in doing so, he uncovers a lot of, how do I want to even get into this? He gets into the network of the Belter Resistance. That's kind of an anarchist type of group, or at least an underground terrorist group by Earth and Martian standards. And then conversely, in space, you've got an Earth ship that's basically harvesting ice from the asteroid belt. They discover a abandoned ship in the belt, and when they board it, everyone's gone. It's completely abandoned. And then out of nowhere, a ship with stealth tech that they did not know about enters their space, launches a missile at it, and everyone, the crew that was on the abandoned ship bailed, like the guys that were there to investigate, they bail out back to their ship. I'm mixing up some details. Basically, a stealth ship that no one knew about destroys this mining ship, and tensions now are really high. This is all escalating the tensions of the war between, the Cold War between all the factions. And then from there...
So you're saying there's a bird of prey that can fire while cloaked?
Something like that, yeah. Dude, and I'm underselling all of this. Like, this is just like the setup. This is like the first episode, more or less, that I'm laying out. Because I don't want to spoil too much if people haven't watched it. So, like, from here... the tension just gets ratcheted up more and more, and new variables come to light that completely alter the tone and the scope of what I just laid out. To the point where, when I said the show is about humanity, once we're into season 3, you become very aware that this show is all about not just. I should point out. Season 1 is kind of tough to crack a little bit because you're trying to figure out all these. You have to understand all these factions and whose alliances are where. So you got to give it a few episodes to kind of let it click. By the time season 2 starts, I'm like right in there. I get everything, and it's great because everything's laid out. Your characters are established. Your factions are you know the lay of the land, and then it's time to go, and it just goes and doesn't stop. Characters are all fantastic. Your main characters especially are a tight-knit little crew on a ship. It's got a little Star Wars, I don't want to say Star Trek because that's a much bigger crew. This is like 4 people. So maybe something akin to, like, I've never watched Firefly, but maybe something like that, or Farscape maybe is another good example for those of you who might have watched Farscape. So you got a tight-knit crew of 4, and you care about each of them. They are your mains, and you care about all of them, and they're all very distinct, and they're all great. Like, really great. So by the time season 3 rolls around, and I have now discovered this far into it, this show is about more than anything. This is about humanity and what is our place in the universe? What is our place in the grand scheme of things? And does any of this infighting matter? We're sitting here fighting planet to planet, belt to planet, when ultimately we're just a speck of dust in a much bigger universe ultimately. So it just, man, it's a ride, and it's great. So questions?
It sounds great.
It is. I highly recommend it. I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
For those who are interested, where is it available?
It is on Prime.
Oh, okay.
So
it's how many seasons are there?
5 now. And I think each season's about 10, 11 episodes or so. They're about 40, 45 minutes long a piece, so you can breeze through them pretty quickly, which is how I got to season 3 between the last episode that we did and now. So, I have read that season 6 is going to be the series finale. Now, these are based on a series of books. And my friend has read all of them, and there's 8 books out right now, and the 9th is coming. And he told me that it's roughly a book a season, roughly, with some overlap in there, but generally that's the rough pace he gave me. So when I found out that they're going to end it in season 6, the show, I was like, well, wait a minute. If there's 9 books, either they're going to condense this way down, or the show is going to end differently than the books do. So I'm curious how that's going to go, but we'll see when it comes to that, I suppose. The show started out on Sci-Fi, and then as Sci-Fi does, they canceled it in season 3, or either when season 3 was happening or before it, and because that's just what Sci-Fi does, because they stink. And Prime picked it up, and that's where it lies now. So everything from here out is on Prime. It's all on Prime now, but season 6 will also be on Prime. So the authors of the books are also like part of the group that does the show. So from what I understand, it's very, very, very close to the source material in the ways that really matter. The books flesh out a lot more things, and there might be some more characters, but from what my friend has told me, the show is very accurate to the books.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
that's really all I've been up to, man. It's been all about the Expanse.
So this raises something that has always been kind of kicking around in the back of my head. But since in our, like, we have a fairly steady chat going, you, me, and Alan Waiters.
Yes, sir.
And since you've been suggesting the Expanse to us, it's got me thinking more and more about it. I just kind of want to bounce it off to you and see if you feel this at all. It seems that we, and I don't know if this is just I can't say it's just in our circle of friends, because I noticed this in like other circles of friends as well. It seems that we are reluctant to eat something someone else brings to the table.
That's not uncommon, to be honest. Like,
does it make sense what I'm saying?
No, it absolutely does.
You are here, and your taste is very well refined, and 9 times out of 10, if you recommend something, whether it be like food, book, game, movie, television show, it's probably a good recommendation. But like, it just seems like, so for example, like you're recommending The Expanse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I recommended, Crossover.
Yes.
Like anytime I get a new issue of Crossover, I read it, I'm like, Drew, you got to read this book.
I have been meaning to be honest, I did mean to pick it up on my last trip to the shop, and when I got there, I blanked, so I didn't get it. When I left, I thought about it, and I think when I go back this week, I'll make an effort to try and get it.
Okay. But also, like with I've noticed this more so on like board game nights too. Like, people who bring games generally tend, and I'm just as guilty of this as anyone else is, people who bring games tend to vote for or kind of push their games
right
above others. And it's usually kind of the ones who don't have any skin in the game kind of end up, making the call. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me or something.
No,
but like,
you're not.
Example of this would be like, back when we had board game nights, the Marvel Champions game.
Yeah.
That I brought. I said, like, guys, this game is really, really great. It's pseudo deck building, co-op, fighting a bad guy. All things we've loved. And you were like, okay, sure, let's try it out. Alan seems a little more resistant. And Alan, if you're listening to this, first off, thank you. Second off, I'm not taking any digs or anything here. This is just observations. Alan seemed more resistant to it because it wasn't Legendary, which is the game which he tends to bring.
Yeah.
And to be fair, has sunk a lot of money into Legendary.
Yeah.
And there are things that I can point out in Champions that I feel the games are similar, but there are things that I can point out.
They're also
in Champions.
Very different.
Yeah. But there are things I can point out in Champions. I feel Champions does better than Legendary. But like, it just seems like nobody really wants to eat what someone else brings to the table.
Yeah.
That's just like a fascinating phenomenon to me.
I feel like this is not limited to us. I'm willing to bet that anyone listening to this right now probably it has a similar circle where this is the exact same issues. I'll bet on it. And I don't know why that is. I think it's because while we're friends and we trust each other's recommendations, it's also like the devil you know kind of thing where it's like, yeah, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, what am I trying to say? It's almost like a backhanded compliment, but it's like it's almost like it's like we also know each other very well and we like each other, but we also like know maybe things that we don't necessarily like about each other. So when recommendations do come to the fold, it might be kind of like, he's recommending that because he likes this.
Yeah,
and it's like it's not even. We're not trying to be spiteful to each other or something, but there's but like that guard is just kind of our guard is up.
Yeah,
I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is. That's actually a really interesting psychological question.
Yeah,
but to be fair,
and folks, if you experience this in your group of friends or whatnot, by all means, let us know.
Yeah, please. Because I feel like this cannot possibly just be us. This has to be a universal thing with friend groups. In fact, I would almost guarantee it is. So if you've got stories like this, please share them with us. Like I'm the only person that I know in all my circles of friends that is watching this show. Now, fortunately, my best friend read all the books and he watched it, but never really pushed it on me. He gave me the first paperback a while back and said it was great. And this was before, it was either around the time or before Grant was born. And as you might imagine, I just do not have time to read a book. These are books, dude. These are like big boy books. They're big. And like, I mean, there's there's
put your reading pants on for this one, folks.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like 150 pages. No, this thing's like 300 plus pages. Like it's a book. So at this point, I doubt I'm going to get to it. But I'm not going to lie. Like now that I'm into the show, I'm kind of like, I should really read those books. So we'll see if that happens. But in any case, like, he mentioned it to me, but didn't like push it very hard. But this is my best friend. I just never followed up on it. But now that I told him that I started watching, he's like, oh yeah, I watched it all too. Or no, I think he started watching it, but because he read the books, he just kind of stopped watching it. It's not that he disliked it, but he just stopped watching it. And now that I'm watching it, he's watching all of it all over again. And now we're having fun conversations about it because I ask him a ton of questions and he tries to be as spoiler free as he can about where I am in the show. And he's like, "Oh yeah, just wait till this. You'll see what happens about that in the episode." Like, yeah. So it's great now that I've taken the plunge. It's having anyone to talk to about it is just like amazing. So, maybe I guess we should trust each other more.
We really should because like it's astonishing what you can discover. You just kind of lower that guard a little bit. Perfect example. I watch wrestling every week now.
Yeah.
You know why? Because I saw your passion for it and how much fun you had with it, and I was like, "All right, let's give this a shot."
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I gotta open up a little more. So I'm gonna go check out Crossover. I know you wouldn't steer me wrong in the comics world, so So I highly recommend watching The Expanse. That's all I can say. If you're into sci-fi and spaceships, like, dude, this is gonna scratch every itch you could possibly have for that kind of stuff. Like, this is scratching my Mass Effect itch in a big bad way. The new Star Trek shows are poo poo, so I don't need that in my life. This is what I need in my life. I need The Expanse in my life.
Yeah, you and my friend Jim recommend this show highly.
Jim watches it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Jim commented on one of your posts, I think.
Oh, I got to start talking to Jim more. I see Jim every so often because he picks up his kid across the street from my house.
Yeah.
We yell at each other from across the street. I'm just going to invite him over to talk about The Expanse next time.
Okay, well, let's segue into to my weeks.
Yes, please.
Not the word in. So
dominated the show for a little bit.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm trying to think anything happened. I've been getting a little more back into Star Wars Squadrons.
That's cool.
Just as like gamage. I'm finding that playing games on the Switch is becoming tricky.
Oh?
Because William likes to explore when he's playing a game. And when I say that, I mean like menus and options and game data. And he can't read. So he just kind of presses random buttons.
That can be risky. That's how data gets overwritten.
So, like, you know, my level 22 Red Knight in Castle Crashers. When I plugged in to get to finally play through the last castle. When he was level 1, I was like, hey, guy, what's going on? So yeah, somehow William found a way to override the game. I'd be much more upset with this if I had never like played the game before and hadn't beaten it before, but I had it for PS3 and played through and beat on that. So this one was just kind of, you know, I enjoyed the game, so I picked it up again for Switch. So, but yeah, gotta be careful. Gotta keep the head on the swivel when it comes to the games.
Yeah.
Julie contributed to my ever-growing quest for good coffee for Valentine's Day. She got me a new kettle, a new water heating kettle, which is great because I just, as a gooseneck kettle, which is great because I just had like kind of a cheapo $30 one. She got me a fantastic from a company called Fellow. It's the EKG Stag, and it is amazing. I love it. Like most coffee videos I watch on YouTube. Yes, I just say coffee videos I watch on YouTube.
That's okay.
Whenever they're doing something that requires precision pouring, this is the kettle they're using. So it is not the most expensive kettle on the market, but it's widely considered to be one of the best. She got me the mid-range model, which is the one I wanted. The high-end model has like an app that goes with it and whatnot. I just didn't really see the need for it. The nice thing about this one is it has temperature control, so I can decide how hot I want the water, which is important. And it also has temperature hold. So like when it reaches the temperature and I take the kettle off to like, you know, pour a little bit out at first, I can put it back on the kettle and it'll hold that temperature. Which is very important as well.
Yeah.
Because temperature affects flavor.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
You can absolutely burn coffee.
Oh, yes, you can.
So you definitely don't want to do that. Typically, you're going to range between, on the low end, 196 degrees. A high end would be 210, 212-ish. And, like, you'd be amazed the difference a couple degrees here and there can make. So, yeah, my pour-over coffee and my Chemex is that much more better because my wife is amazing. For so many reasons beyond just that, but that primarily. And I think that's pretty much it. You know, just quarantining, the usual stuff. So that is our weeks. Dear listeners, if you'd like to tell us about your weeks, send us any questions or comments to be read on the show, you can find us at the following locations. You can find us on Twitter at DevilsDuePod. You can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/DevilsDuePod. You can email us at thedevilsdupod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdupodcast.com. Drew, with that being said, we actually don't have any emails this week because I did not promote that we were recording tonight.
Oh, bummer.
Because, it's Monday night. We wanted to keep it tight. And so, as we just spent, the first half of the show talking about the Expanse.
Yeah.
And other things, other phenomena. But that's fine. That's how we do. And folks, the mailbox is always open.
Always.
You don't have to wait for us to let you know we're recording and send us a question. You send us a question or something, we'll get you on the next show. It won't go to waste. All right, so moving right along to the news. Not a ton of news this week. 2 items of note. One I'd actually forgotten about. The other one, I suppose we have to talk about. Just kind of scanning really quick. Listen, folks, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. We try to bring some positivity and joy into your life.
What's this we stuff?
I think at the heart we do with this show. You have your outlets for curmudgeon and raging. Otherwise, I think you to use the '90s parlance, you keep it real, but you still try to bring the joy in this show.
My heart's in the right place.
That being said, folks, we're well aware of everything that happened this week with Gina Carano and Joss Whedon. You are too. You know what? I just don't want to talk about it. If you listen to our show, you know where we fall on these things. And you know what? I don't want to talk about it. If you want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. But
no, I'd rather not.
Just checking the file. Gina Carano, horrible person. We already knew that. Joss Whedon, a horrible person. He's suspected for a long time, but it's since been confirmed. Okay.
Yeah. And that's fine. You know what? And given that they're not worth they're not worth the time to discuss.
Yeah.
Put them away.
Moving right along, we are exiting that through one door and entering in another door.
Hey! Before I forget, I also watched Toy Story 4 this week.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
sorry.
Give us a rundown on that.
All right. So I don't know if I relayed to you my feelings on the Toy Story franchise as a whole. I love Toy Story. It's great. 1 is excellent. 2 is probably better. And 3, I would almost say 3 is I'm reluctant to say it's the best of them all, only because it does thematically rehash a bit of 2 to get it rehashes 2 in a way, but the emotional tug of 3 is so emotional that, my God, I can't help but love that movie and also dread watching it every time because I will weep no less than 3 times in that film, like a baby. I will break down. And I have recently because I've watched it with Grant because he likes to watch Toy Story all the time now. So he's into that now. So I love Toy Story. It's great. And Toy Story 3 was the best possible ending you could have had for this franchise. But they had to go ahead and make another one. Now, it's good. It's a well-made movie and everything. It's not it's not bad by any means, but it undermines a lot of the character growth and the themes of the first 3, and it's ultimately kind of unnecessary. It's fine, and Woody gets a send off, as it were. So I guess this probably would be the end of these films, but I feel like we already reached that point in 3 with not just for Woody, but for all of the toys. And that felt like a good, that was where you really should have left it. And 4 is kind of, it's all over the map in a lot of ways, and like I said, it undermines the previous films, and I was kind of bummed out by it. It's emotional. Like I shed a tear at the end because it is a very emotional payoff, and like I said, a send off for Woody. But Buzz is practically cast aside for the whole movie. He doesn't have a whole lot to do. And like I said, it kind of spits in the face of the previous movie's messages and themes. So problematic. And the villain is the villain's a little complex in it. Like, she's not as evil, air quotes, as, a typical villain would be. She has her own reasons for why she's doing what she's doing. But I feel like Woody's resolution to this villain is like wildly, I don't know. Like, the villain doesn't get comeuppance, put it that way. It doesn't work for me personally. So anyway, I was bummed out by Toy Story 4. Disappointed.
Isn't Bo Peep the villain in this?
No, she's a returning hero because she was not in 3.
Yeah.
And that's a big plot point in 4.
I hate Toy Story.
Wow. Okay.
Because it has made it so difficult to throw out or get rid of my kids' toys.
I could see that.
Because I know when I turn around, they're moving and talking and terrified of what I'm going to do. And I hate Toy Story for doing that. Otherwise, I like the films. Yeah, how often do you get to a 4th film in a franchise and say, we needed to go here?
They didn't. They really, I'm telling you, they didn't. I don't know how... I like to think Pixar is above, like, cash grabs, but I don't see why this movie had to get made. I don't know.
I think there's a line between cash grab and, okay, you're just leaving a ridiculous amount of money on the table and you need to go get that money.
Did they really have to make another I mean, it made $1 billion, so I mean, obviously,
yeah,
but come on, like,
I
don't know.
I get it. I understand it from an artistic standpoint, but I also understand it from a business standpoint.
Well, if
the choice is to have $1 billion or to not have $1 billion, business is going to billion.
I feel that
artists, maybe not.
No, and the thing is, I thought Pixar was a more artistically driven studio, but
I still think they are, only because, like, you look at something like Soul.
Yeah.
And if you look at, like, if you just break down Soul into a pitch meeting, that's not $1 billion idea, but it has artistic merit, and they went and made it. So, I mean, for me, like, if you want things like Soul, then things like Toy Story 4 are sometimes necessary.
I just feel like that studio has more than justified their like, they have they have Marvel credit, whereas their track record speaks for itself.
Yeah,
they can do anything. So why do they have to go back to the well? And I don't know. People seem to like Toy Story 4 was well reviewed, but I mean, I watched it and I was just kind of like, I'm not buying this. Like, I'm just not buying it. I'm not picking up what they're putting down.
I mean, I think it's primarily because you were satisfied with the ending, and like there was a sense of completion there.
Absolutely. And
this is kind of going back and saying, "Oh wait, there's more."
Yeah.
And there's just like I saw Toy Story 3 once, but I remember like the end being, kind of, okay, this is a good way to go out. That's the
way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
So anyway, I watched 4 and it was I was underwhelmed. Again, it's a perfectly fine movie, but I didn't quite care for it. I think 3 was the ultimate way to end that franchise with class, with dignity, and yeah. So anyway, that happened this week. It felt notable to talk about.
So we, as I was stating before, we exit one room through one door and enter another room through another door that has previously, Drew, you might say, been forbidden.
Oh, look what you're doing!
That is now open.
Dude, it's knocked off the hinges.
It is blast off the hinges. And folks, I'm sorry, we're going to talk about wrestling for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Drew.
Yes.
NJPW is coming.
They sure are.
And a little bit they're here.
They're here.
And it's blowing my mind to realize, and I know I don't have the carte blanche to like kind of go off on a tangent like this, but at the same time, it's blowing my mind to realize that it's very possible at one point in the next year, in the 2021 calendar year, it's either going to be like a pay-per-view or a really hyped up Dynamite. But at some point this year, Drew, Kenny Omega is going to be standing there triumphant, holding up the belt, doing his thing, and Okada's going to walk out.
You don't know how right you are, because according to trusted people in the biz, Okada's coming. It's just a matter of when. Now, I salivate at all of this, okay? This is what I've wanted from day one. And in fact, I'm actually now, with hindsight, I'm happy that it's worked out this way where we didn't get it right away and that we had to wait for it, because it's going to make this payoff that much sweeter. The forbidden door made the forbidden fruit that much sweeter. So, here we are.
Yes.
My only concern is I need crowds to be in attendance for all this to happen. I need it.
Yeah.
It is not going to have the same effect. Okada walking into an empty building is not going to have the same effect. Like, if they can hold on for like another year and wait till people get vaccinated, wait till restrictions are lifted more on buildings and arenas and whatever, man, whenever Okada shows up at an AEW ring, wherever they are, ideally like a hot town like Chicago or New York, you will hear the pop from space. Okay? Like this is like the dream of dreams, and I feel like we really need fans in the stands to make it really satisfying. Because it's going to be electric. Like, you're going to feel it's going to be in the air.
And folks, for those of you who don't know, like, who's this guy that they're talking about?
Okada?
Go to YouTube and look up Kenny Omega versus Okada.
They fought.
I have been privy to one of these matches, and numerous times throughout the match, I've gone, okay, that guy's dead. He is really physically dead, and yet he keeps up and keeps moving. These matches are insane.
And the funny thing about Okada is he's not overly flashy. He's really not like a high spot guy. Like, Okada, it just is a master of all the fundamentals. He's a master of selling. He looks like a champion. He looks like the biggest thing going. And he spins gold. He spins gold out of anyone he works with. Doesn't matter who it is. But if you're in the ring with Okada, you're going to have the match of your life. He's just that good. I can't explain it. He is incredible. Okada is amazing. So his trilogy with Kenny, those matches they're overhyped and yet underhyped, because they're overhyped, and as a result of the overhype, people want to start crapping on them and say they're not as good as they really as they're rated. But then you listen to that argument, and then you watch them again, you're like, nope, these are great. these are hype. Okada's great. He can work with anybody. He has a rivalry with Kenny. But I mean, you can put him in with anybody and it's going to be fire. So, and not to mention, like, give me Naito versus anybody in AEW. Give me LIJ, his stable, versus like the Inner Circle. Like, sure. Okay, cool. Give me that. Give me Ishii versus like anyone. Ishii versus Wardlow. Just stiff the crap out of each other. Cool. I'm in. Let's go. Like, it's all, and now it's all possible. It's all on the table, and it's so exciting. I don't know logistically how it's going to work yet, because quarantining and travel restrictions and whatnot are still a thing.
Right.
So if Okada's got to come over from Japan, he's got to hang out for 2 weeks, and he can't do anything before they can do an angle, and then he's got to go back, and he's got to quarantine again. Like, it's hard right now to do. But as soon as, it's happening. If you don't know, AEW has copyrighted some terms, some names for possible events or shows, including the Forbidden Door, Forbidden Portal, and I think they also did the Belt Collector. I think they copyrighted the Belt Collector, something like that. So a lot of things happening. And then, lest we forget, Kenny and Kota Ibushi they're kind of like wrestling destiny. Their destinies are intertwined. They were the tag team as the Golden Lovers. They were amazing. They separated. Kenny went on to great success. Ibushi went on to great success. Kenny had his failures and became increasingly more heelish and evil and crappy. And it was only when Ibushi re-entered his life that he got good again. And it was only when Ibushi re-entered his life that he won the IWGP title. And now Kenny is the AEW champion and Ibushi is the IWGP champion. So their destinies might be colliding once again. So there's just so much potential here. And it's like, fans, this is like the MCU of wrestling, basically. Like, this is what fans want. They want all these interpromotional crossovers. Because, the talent, these guys just work for these companies. You know what I mean? They're all friends. Like, and fans know that. And fans know who these guys are. So, if the companies can get out of the way and just make stuff happen, give fans what they want, give us these dream matches, let's go. Let's do it. Let's make it all happen.
Indeed. Looking forward to this very much. So, now on to our last news story of the day, and you know what? I probably should have swapped these two stories so we can end on a higher note.
Uh-oh.
But here we are, folks. We got the first full trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Proper title.
Over this past weekend. Yeah. Drew, what'd you think?
Zack Snyder can cut a trailer like nobody's business. Unfortunately, there has to be a movie attached to them, which I know is going to be awful.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like typical Zack Snyder fare. Completely devoid of hope, optimism, heart, humor. And you know what? For some things, that style works. Just not for these characters. He continues to display a fundamental lack of understanding of the core components of these characters and just making them what he wants them to be. Now, saying that, there's a difference between having a take on a character and an interpretation of the character. And there's a difference between that and changing a character's core makeup to what you feel they should be. And that's kind of what Snyder does. And the problem is, like, he doesn't get it, doesn't make it right. So, I mean, and full disclosure, I'm probably going to watch this.
Oh,
and
God.
I'm going to try to be open-minded going into it. But I don't have a lot of hope for it.
Well, that's okay, because hope isn't something these movies have in high supply, so.
Indeed. So it'll be interesting if I can get through the entire 4 hours in one sitting. Yeah, there are some superhero films that I would gladly sit for 4 hours. If you told me there was like a 4-hour cut of Endgame, I'd be like, I'm in. Let's go. But yeah.
Like, it's going to be, I'm sure it will be different enough to justify its existence, but I don't want, like you just said, I don't need 4 hours of depressing Zack Snyder Justice League. Like, you know, it's just, he doesn't, that's ultimately, and this is a critique of the comics too. It's like, I don't, DC's characters are not meant for this. Like, they're just not. But they seem to keep insisting that they are. Like, I feel like, and I think we might have brought it up before. I read a great article on the interwebs years ago, and and I think it remains entirely on point and true. It might have been at Comics Alliance, and it's called The Problem. I think it might be called, or the DC Problem, or I forgot the article's title, but I'll see if I can find it and link it. It basically, DC Comics was the superhero comic company from the 1930s through the 40s, through the 50s, into the 60s, until 1961 happened, and Marvel came out and completely rewrote the book on what superhero comics were, and added a layer of realism in The World Outside Your Window, and they kind of skewed a little bit older than what DC was. Not adults, but Marvel was skewing a little bit older than DC with their target audience. And ever since then, ever since the 1960s, it has been this perpetual game of let's catch up to Marvel. Let's be edgier than Marvel at every turn. And all it's led to, especially since 1980, post-crisis onward, we have just these bright, cheery characters doing terrible, dark things, and I don't want that. Like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here for just like, the biggest example I can think of is like, is it Identity Crisis, which is the one where Dr. Light sexually assaults elongated man's wife. Was that Identity Crisis?
Yeah.
I don't need that. I don't need that. We've lost the plot a bit when we're doing that with these characters. That's not to say you can't tell, adultish stories with them, but some of it's just like beyond the pale, kind of like, what are we doing here? Why do we have to have this kind of tone with Superman in his red cape, like in this murderous, rampaging whatever? I'm not here for it. I can't get into it. And ultimately, a lot of people apparently can. And hey, if you're into that, I am judging you, but hey, live your life. I don't know. I feel like it's the follow me here, Carl. I feel like people that insist on having violence, nudity, and sexual themes in their work, and then brags that makes them adult and edgy, actually makes them the opposite. You're not being mature. You are being juvenile if you need those elements to tell a mature story. And you know what I'm talking about. Like the
Yeah.
friend in high school who always knew the movies that were good because they had boobs in them. Or the movies that were good because it's just so violent. And there's this part where this guy gets his head cut off or something like that. And like when you're in high school, whatever. But Zack Snyder's like a 50-year-old man. And he's still that guy. And they gave the keys to the kingdom to that guy. That's a problem. And all those people that want to see this stuff, I feel like I don't know. To me, hey, we all like what we like, but I think if you're still titillated by violence and the occasional nudity, like, congratulations, you're still a teenager. Grow up. But that's me. That's just how I feel.
No, your point is not invalid.
So anyway, that's my thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League. Look at the marketing for it. Like every still I see I gotta see these news articles with Zack Snyder posting pictures in black and white, and like, oh, how edgy and auteur of you, Zack Snyder. You're just so artistic that you post these pictures in black and white because that makes it arty. Like, get out of here. He's doing a black and white version of it, and it's like called the Justice is Gray edition. Shut up. Just stop. Stop it. Just stop it. This is the stuff Alan Moore warned us about when he made Watchmen and said that everyone learned the wrong lessons from it. He was right. They did. Everyone just saw the realism and the violence in Watchmen and thought that was the point. Except the point of Watchmen was to show how absurd bringing these fantastical notions of superheroism into the real world and how problematic that really is. That was the point, not the violence, not violence for the sake of the violence. The violence was to illustrate how messed up it would be if our world was like the superhero world.
Right.
Anyway, then again, hey, look where we are now with the world. I guess we got there eventually.
Sure. So yeah, that about does it from the news.
Oh, hey, the Joker's in there doing meme lines.
I don't care.
Carl, we live in a society. Did you know that? Yeah. I know. You want to talk about something that we do like?
Yes, I do want to talk about something we do like. Let's transition from dark and depressing to colorful and disturbing.
Yeah.
Let's talk some WandaVision.
Now, see, this is the kind of mature handling of things that I can handle because it's being handled with nuance, subtlety, and depth. These are not Zack Snyder's strong suits.
No, none of these are Zack Snyder's strong suits. So when last we spoke,
let's catch up.
Had you seen episode 4?
I'm all caught up, dude. I am.
No, I'm talking about when we left off. Because I don't think when...
No, we did not talk about episode 4.
So we didn't basically talk about the point where everything in the show kind of changed. And oh boy, howdy, how we're still getting these changes.
Mm-hmm.
So Drew, give me your thoughts on episode 4 forward.
We have... See... People, I brought it up. I brought it up on our last discussion. People that were like poo-pooing the show based on the first and second episodes, and like people I thought were smarter than that. And I like I said last time, like they should know better. If they would have gotten to like episode 4 or so, I think they would have really ate their own words, while probably begrudging. They would have jumped on board, but then still cried about they should have got to this sooner. The first 2 episodes were a waste of time.
Yeah.
Whatever. I
had some conversations like that. Episode 4 should have been episode 1. No.
It's called pacing.
If episode 4 is episode 1, then episode 4 is not as good as what it is.
Right. You have to build. You gotta build things up. It's called suspense. It's called storytelling, folks. If we get to the point right away, then there's no point, So, episode 4 was that? Let me catch me up. What happened in episode 4 again? Was that when
episode 4 was
that when she threw Monica out of the hex?
Yeah, episode 4 was the first time we went outside the hex.
Ah, yes, okay.
And we learned we saw the results of Avengers Endgame, essentially, with everybody who was snapped away coming back.
Right. That was intense. That was super intense.
Side note, I would love for Marvel to do a pseudo documentary about the 5 years. Do a documentary about life for those 5 years. They just treat it like 100% serious, and
it would be interesting. And then the thing about the way they handle it is the only real mention that we I mean, granted, it was like the only thing that came out since Endgame, was in Spider-Man Far From Home, and they treated it almost like a joke. Not like a joke, but I mean, people were gone. Well, they're back now, and like none of the emotional fallout is really hashed out there. In WandaVision, like it was not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, Monica comes back and finds out her mom is dead, and the world that she is coming back to has been dealt some heavy, heavy blows. So she has to like rebuild her life essentially, and so does everyone else who came back. Like, there's so much to unpack, Yeah.
So, and I've seen a lot of people eagerly anticipating a happy reunion between Monica and Captain Marvel.
I think
Carol Danvers. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, if anything, I'm reading between the lines on a lot of this stuff. It seems to me that she harbors some resentment to Carol for reasons we don't know yet, but clearly.
Well, I'm guessing the reason is my mother, your best friend, was dying.
Yeah.
And you, A, had these powers that could potentially save her, like Monica doesn't know. And B, you weren't here.
Yeah.
When this was happening.
I also wonder.
Where were you, and why should I care?
Yeah. I wonder. I think that's spot on. And I also wonder if, it's not like there's not precedent for what I'm going to throw out there, but I wonder if contact with Captain Marvel led to Maria Rambeau's cancer. And so she might be blaming Carol for her mother's death even. Remember what killed Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel in the comics? He died of cancer.
Right.
So they could be hinting at that, teasing. I don't know, but clearly, yeah, they're not friendly right now. So that's interesting. Like this WandaVision's like an awesome show, but they're kind of backdooring like an origin story for Monica Rambeau as well. We didn't even know if she's going to be part of the show, but it's like this is actually now kind of like one of the big things in the show.
Yeah. So now, so that was one big turn. The other big turn is at the end of the quote unquote 80s episode, where things are kind of starting to fracture in the Hex, at least from Vision's perspective. He's starting to see the strings on the puppets,
right,
per se.
Yep.
And he's starting to realize that this is not what it seems to be. Crazy weird moments with Agnes, like just kind of acting like an actor.
And how creepy was that when she like broke the character kind of and like asked if they were going to
it was so creepy.
Wasn't that creepy? That was so creepy.
It was so creepy. And of course, at the end, the big reveal, folks, spoilers, Pietro shows up, but it's not the Pietro we know from Avengers Age of Ultron. It's the Pietro we know from the Fox X-Men movies.
Yeah, they did the thing.
And I was like, oh, wow.
Now, and they let us sit with it for a week. This is why I like waiting for episodes, because they give you all this time to discuss and speculate, and it drives interest further. If they would have dumped the whole season at once, this would have been lost on us. So I have very much switched from liking the Netflix way to liking going back to the old traditional way of doing things, which is one episode a week, because like you said, we get to marinate in the stuff a little bit longer. We get to think and conjecture, and like, especially with this show, obviously you have some of that with Mandalorian, but not to the level as this show. Like, this reminds me, and I know it's probably not the best comparison, but this reminds me a lot of how people were theorizing with Lost. Yeah, totally.
And just like, that's fun. And you don't get to do that when they dump it all at once.
Exactly. So we had that whole week to start talking about, are they going to do, is this how they're going to bring in the X-Men and all that stuff and yada, yada. And my thought process was, I from the beginning thought like, no way, this they're not going to do that. I still don't see it happening. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I just feel like Marvel has waited all this time to get those rights back. Whenever they get around to it, they're going to do it their way. But this was a wink, wink, wink to the audience. And boy, oh boy, did the audience go nuts for the wink. But I think in the very next episode, now we spend even more time with, air quotes, Pietro. And I think more than ever now, he is not the Pietro from the X-Men movies. I don't know what exactly he is, but he's clearly not who he seems to be. Obviously, Pietro's dead, like dead. So whoever he is, he's impersonating Pietro, or the more likely scenario I'm guessing, is that he is like a manifestation of Wanda's subconscious mind playing with her, or at least trying to help her overcome or figure out her situation.
Yeah, because again, we were talking about this in the chat. I don't think, let me preface this by saying I've stopped trying to figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because
I'm just here for the ride. I'm
enjoying the ride. And honestly, at this point, there is nothing that I don't think can't happen.
That's fair.
Like, if Patrick Stewart were to wheel in, I'd be like, okay. Okay, let's go. If Patrick Stewart were to be pushed in on the wheelchair by J. Jonah Jameson, I'd be like, okay, where is this going to go? So, all right, that being said, I don't think they would pull that card, the Pietro card, using that. What's the actor's name? Is it Evans? Look, do me a favor, look that up while I'm talking.
Which Pietro are we talking about?
The Fox Pietro.
Fox Pietro.
X-Men Pietro. I don't think they would pull that card.
Evan Peters.
I knew it was Evan something. I don't think they would pull that card to just use as a wink to the audience. Be like, hey, remember we own Fox now, and he was Quicksilver and Fox's X-Men? Well, look at this little winking out. I don't think it's It's simply that. I think there will be more to it than that. But do I think it is like full blown? Oh, they're gonna introduce mutants, and this is how it's done. I don't really think so.
There's been some interesting clues I'm not going to say to the X-Men, but to the potential of the X-Men.
Yeah.
And so in episode 4, or maybe, Vision talks about reading the kids a bedtime story, and he actually said he tried to read them like a book by Charles Darwin.
Yeah.
Hello, Charles Darwin, evolution.
Yeah.
On top of that, did you notice in the last episode, which we'll talk about, Darcy tells Monica that since she has gone into and come out of the Hex, that her genetic code is now different?
Yes. So there's two ways to interpret that. I feel one, that's how they're going to get Monica to be
Photon or Spectrum or whatever
Photon,
moniker they want to give her, yeah.
Or Captain Marvel.
Or maybe.
I think if anything, they're going to use the Photon moniker because they've already established that as her mother's call sign when she was a pilot.
That's right, yep.
So that just makes sense. So there's that. Or it is a stepping stone to mutants. Like everybody's like, my own concern is everybody's so hung up on mutants that you're going to miss out on what they're actually trying to do.
Yeah. Remember, this show is still focused on characters, and this is all about Wanda. And I think the whole show is a meditation on her trauma. And
yeah,
let's not miss the plot here because we're too busy looking for the X-Men.
Right. So, and the end of the last episode saw the Hex explode exponentially.
Yeah. So Vision has
because Vision's trying to escape it.
Can we talk about Vision for a moment?
Yes, of course.
I'm going to throw something at you, and I'm curious if you would agree.
Right.
I think that the Vision in the MCU is the closest thing the MCU has to Superman.
Okay.
In the most in that he is the most, he's number one, he's not truly human. He's an observer, more of humanity, more or less, who tries to blend in. Number two, so look at some of the shots of him in this episode when he takes off into the sky to survey the town.
Yeah.
With his cape blowing in the wind.
Right.
And number three, how selfless is he when he escapes the Hex and he's being literally torn piece by piece back into it, and he says, help, and he doesn't say, help me, he says, help them. Vision is a truly selfless hero, and I think he's very Superman-esque in that way.
Yes. No, I definitely agree with that analogy. I don't feel like Vision's resurrection will be part of this show.
No, neither do I. I think by the end of this, he will be still very dead.
And as much as that pains me, because over the course of the first chapter, if you will, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the first 10 years, it was so well done that you grow to really love these characters, and you want to see the characters, and to lose a character and to lose characters like we did towards the end. There's part of us, I think, as fans that would love to have these characters back because of our affection for the characters, regardless of how perfectly their ending was. We still kind of want that connection back, but again, I think you take away from the character by bringing them back.
No, I totally agree. Bringing
at the same time, for all the reasons you just described him, I would be happy to have him back.
Oh, of course, I would. And we said it last week, or our last episode. Like, I think the cast in this is crushing it because they didn't get a ton of time in the Avengers flicks, and here they get the show to themselves. And Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are just like excellent in these roles, and we get to spend so much more time. Yeah, we get to spend so much more time with them and really care, and it's been great. I've really, really dug it.
So it's going to be an interesting. So we've got, I believe, 3 episodes left, and
I believe the last 2 are an hour, or the last 3.
Yeah, I was about to say, I heard, I can't confirm that the last 3 are an hour. So I'm kind of hoping that's the case, and of course, there's the rumor of a 9th or 10th episode.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, like a hidden episode.
Yeah. So we will see. It's going to be one hell of a ride. It's, as much as I'm anticipating it, it's going to be hard going from like a mind trippy, reality bending show like this to what I'm sure is probably going to be a more straightforward action thriller suspense of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Did we talk about that trailer, by the way? I don't think we did. But
no, we didn't talk about any of the Super Bowl trailer stuff. But yeah, we got the full trailer for that. Let's circle back to that.
Let's go. We're getting the buddy cop show we never knew we wanted, and yet all demanded after we saw Civil War.
with U.S. Agent, no less.
Notice how they didn't really show him much in that trailer. They're still kind of keeping him.
They didn't show, like, we know what the costume looks like and everything, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It is a nice. The design of it is a nice hybrid between the MCU Captain America costume and the comics U.S. Agent costume.
It reads U.S. Agent.
Baron Zemo in this, just...
They're giving him the mask. Let's go.
They're giving him the mask. He's like, listen, my work is not done. I don't want superheroes around at all.
I'm a big fan of the actor because he was phenomenal in Inglourious Bastards, and then in Civil War, I think he was super, super interesting as this regular guy who suffers great loss and decides to enact a plan to break up the Avengers, and he succeeds.
Yeah.
So more of that guy. Yep. Okay. Cool. Let's go.
Yeah. I'll take that. Yeah.
And then you get the buddy cop love-hate dynamic between Falcon and Bucky. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So I'm here for it. Sign me up.
Like, I'm extremely excited for what we have seen of the show. I'm even more excited for what we haven't seen.
Absolutely.
If you think back to all the WandaVision promo stuff, everything they showed us, like 98% of it was just from the first 2 episodes.
Yep. Yeah.
And like even all the Mandalorian stuff leading into season 1 and season 2, all the promotion stuff, again, 98% of it is just from the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And they're just killing it with getting us excited for these things. So I'm very excited. One last thing I want to touch on. I mentioned this to you and Alan, and you guys kind of maybe went along with me a little bit, but I think I'm on a very lonely island on this one. But if what I think comes true, I'm going to be dancing on the hilltop of I Told You So and waving a flag of Carl was right. Carl was right. If I'm not right, then Carl was wrong. In other words, water is wet. There, right after the Falcon Winter Soldier trailer, like immediately after, there was a commercial.
Oh.
For a civilian mission to space where we're sending up 4 civilians to space, and it all looks very legitimate. It's to benefit the St. Jude Foundation, which is an amazing foundation. It is
SpaceX. Yeah, it's a legitimate company.
It's all legitimate company, but Drew, the number 4 in the promotional material, the design of it, and then you look at the patch that is designed for the mission, and the colors that are used in the patch, and the mission's called Inspiration. The A being replaced with a 4. A 4 just being the design of the 4 with a blue circle around it, and blue and sky blue and gray being very prominent in the visual design of the patch. Drew, I think that this is the first of a viral marketing for a Fantastic Four announcement. Now, you go onto the website that is in this commercial, and there is a countdown till they announce the crew for this mission. I feel that once this countdown reaches its climax, they are going to announce the cast for the Fantastic Four MCU film.
You might be right, but I don't think so.
Why not?
A ploy like that is
genius.
No, I think that would backfire spectacularly from people that care about such things. It tracks. Everything you're saying tracks, but I think they risk major blowback for that. If all it is a marketing campaign for a movie, I think they would face some major resistance from people. I think that would be seen as in pretty bad taste. SpaceX is a publicly traded company, and I just don't think that they would do that necessarily. I don't know. Maybe the only way I think it's possible is if it's both things. It's legitimate and also a wink wink ad campaign that they do together. But they can't just make it. It can't just be like, oh hey, remember that commercial where we said we're going to send up 4 civilians to space? Psych! It's just a movie ad. No, I think it's a serious thing. Now, if they go ahead and announce these actual 4 people that are going to go up into space, as well as and while we're on the subject of Inspirational 4, here's the Fantastic Four. You could cross brand it that way, but I can't get there thinking that it's legit a Fantastic Four advertisement.
Well, if it's not, and I'm wrong, which is very likely, I think Marvel should still allow them to call the crew the Fantastic Four.
Sure.
Why not? So, all right. And also, kind of circling back to WandaVision, a lot of speculation of the aerospace engineer mentioned in one of the episodes.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be Reed.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Again, folks, just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of fun.
I think there is a lot of stuff we don't know. And let's just enjoy the ride and find out, like, why is the head of the field team such a jerk? It's a stock cliche that the government guy is like this bad guy, right? Who's shoot first, ask questions later kind of guy. That's stock character. I think there's more to it than that. I think he's involved somehow with whatever's going on inside, and he wants to clean it up, cover it up, or he has an ulterior motive to whatever's happening. I think it's entirely possible that the reason why he's so invested in... I don't think his mission is to find out what's up with Wanda. I think his mission is to retrieve the Vision's body, because I think Sword was conducting experiments on the Vision's body to try and replicate him to be used as a weapon. So I think that could be why Wanda freaked out, stole the body, and then put up the hex to protect herself and the Vision from the outside world. Just throwing that out there. That could be a reason.
I don't think there's been a theory I've heard that can be 100% invalid.
Mm-hmm. We're going to find out a lot of... The only thing I think could be totally invalid, Carl, I don't think Mephisto's showing up.
But everybody's Mephisto.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say no, there's not going to be Mephisto. I'm just putting it out there. I don't see it. I think
But then, even at the same time, if Mephisto shows up, would you be surprised?
To be honest, yeah. Because I feel like there are firm lines drawn in the sand. Well, not so firm, but cosmic, space, science-y stuff, dimensional stuff, okay. Supernatural, demonic entities kind of cross the line of what the MCU can kind of support, or has supported up to this point.
Sir, I feel Dormammu might raise objection to that.
But that's just like another dimensional kind of angle with Doctor Strange. Mephisto is like the devil. Like, not like an interdimensional being. No, he's the devil. Bringing him in is kind of like, that's a big one. That's a big one. It's a spicy meatball.
I mean, they're gonna do Blade.
They are. You know what? You're right. They are gonna do Blade, and that is
so.
When they announced that, that took me aback a little bit.
The supernatural realm is completely open ever since Doctor Strange. So there's nothing at this point that's off the table.
Well, I guess we're going to see.
There's nothing that's off the table. Howard the Duck showed up at the end of the film, Drew. Nothing is off the table.
Yeah, we're going to see. We're going to see.
All right, folks, I think that's going to wrap it up for us this week. We appreciate you, as always, stopping by, chatting with us. If you'd like to reach out, communicate with us, send us some questions or whatnot to be read on the show, you can do so at the following locations. You can follow us on Twitter at DevilsDuPod. You can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/DevilsDuPod. You can email us at thedevilsdupod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdupodcast.com. Drew, that being said, any closing thoughts?
Go watch The Expanse.
All right.
Run,
folks,
don't walk.
Run. Folks, again, as always, thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you again soon. Be excellent to each other.